Be all right.
Here we are. We're live, and we have a fabulous guest with us, Carnivore Muscle. Yeah, that's why he's called Carnivore Muscle. The guns from here. Oh, I'm not allowed to say that on YouTube. Sorry. The biceps from here look amazing, mate. So, you've been through the mill a bit lately, Jonathan. But how are you feeling?
Yeah, I mean, I feel much more positive the last few weeks versus weeks prior. I've just been getting on with stuff like content creation, working on the coaching, refining my approach a bit. And as your body changes, as you get older, with me, my body's just changing a lot while I'm young. So I'm just going through that kind of grieving process where you sort of understand this is where I'm at right now. This is what I need to do. This might be where I have to stay, but I can easily go one way or the other in terms of like getting worse. So I've just got to maintain, my biohacks, the glasses, red light therapy, air conditioning unit, essential. I'm trying out some other things as well, just to try and reduce the pain as much as possible. But yeah, my setup now here for recording and live streams is basically the end of my bed. My foot is where the microphone is. Lovely. Take a screenshot, and the camera is 4K, but I might not look 4K, so I don't know. But there we go.
Yeah, well, it's the content really. It's what you say that matters. One of the things I want to say to people is when we have the guests on, and actually when we're doing any answer, you don't have to agree. You don't have to agree with everything. I mean, the great thing about being carnivore is we're all pretty level-headed and calm and relaxed. We don't get anxious. And Jonathan and I think the only thing we disagree with on probably is priming. But that's what's great about this space, isn't it? That we just talk about it. We talk about the pros and cons. And in our school community, a couple of people said, "Oh, I saw Jonathan doesn't like priming." I said, "Well, that's his experience. He doesn't like it. I did it,
That's
and I got results from it. So it's different. We're all different."
Yeah, it's exactly it. So, like Stephen and I, people that are watching this, we've both got generally the same sort of grasp of understanding of different principles when it comes to diet, training, recovery, biohacks, all that sort of thing. But we've just had different experiences, like he said. So it's not that my experience is a lie and his is a lie, and somewhere there's some truth in the middle of all of this. So when we create content, especially me, I go on right on that line basically, just because it entices people to watch. But also makes it clear and evident what bad experiences I might have had. So it might have been someone tried out my high protein diet and it didn't work for them. I've had that before where a couple of people have, tried increase the protein, they just felt like crap. So, different strokes, different folks. There's no one way to skin a cat. There's multiple ways, as I'm sure you guys know.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I never want to be an echo chamber. And, next week, I'm hopefully going to have Dave Feldman on to talk about the study. And it's not going to be an easy ride for him because I think there's things in that study, for instance, that aren't great. And detractors of that study, they're very hypocritical when they look at, I don't know, the butter versus seed oil study where they, these detractors from Dave Feldman's study, they are hypocritical because that butter and seed oil one is atrocious, and yet they think it's fabulous. And so this is the point I'm making is it's very easy to be great about things that chime in with your narrative and, really magnanimous, but you've got to be consistent. If there's limitations in a study, whether or a story, or if there's something you want to talk about carnivore and it doesn't chime right, then we talk about it. If that's the way it is. So we've got 2 super chats, and I think it'd be a bit rude to ignore those. Obviously, all the questions. Just a little update. Richard will be here about 7:15, so in about 10 minutes. About 10 minutes. If I sound a little bit hoarse, I'm a Liverpool Football Club supporter, and today we won the Premier League. And I'm one of those stupid old men that shouts at television screens when the football's on. So that's why that's happening. Right. So the first one from Life Spanners, which is a great name. Thank you very much for the $9.99 super chats. Put your question in front of everybody else's. It helps us as well, which is really fantastic. So Life Spanners. Jonathan, are you ready for the first question?
Oh yeah, you may have to read it out, Stephen, if that's all right, just because my screen's a bit small.
Yeah, just testing right side. I have recently started to get some gastrointestinal upset, diarrhea. I use the Relight Electrolytes, but I find that makes my heart racy and my stomach worse. Any advice for upset tummy? Thank you.
That's a good question. Now, depends who you ask. If I know, for example, I'll just give my coaching experience to people. If I know someone's got an easily irritated stomach, sensitive guts, they add in garlic one day and all of a sudden they're in the toilet all day. I'm going to have a slightly different approach. So if someone's dealing with diarrhea, I certainly wouldn't be adding electrolytes because sodium will increase gastric motility along with the other things. So you're looking at, I imagine these things have like potassium citrate, great for, dissolving kidney stones, all that sort of thing. But the thing is, if you're taking in these nutrients, they're attached to certain molecules in a certain way, a certain level of chelation happens, which means that it can actually affect the intestinal pH, the gut lining, the endothelial layer, and everything along that line. So whilst it might be useful to have electrolytes, if you're fasting, you've got good guts, you might actually find that buffering it with some food is more beneficial. When I say that, I don't mean having this much electrolytes, like a full bottle, then having a meal. If you've not got a great stomach, it wouldn't be a good idea. So what I'd say is maybe have half a scoop with a little bit of water, have it between your meal. So have some bites of food. The idea is you sort of have a layer in your gut, a sedimentary layer, add in the electrolytes to sort of bolster up any electrolytes you might be slightly lacking that day, then fill it on top with more food. But largely speaking, that's what I'd be looking at. So reducing, 1, the dose, 2, the frequency of using them, 3, I'd actually look at using something buffered if you're looking for electrolytes. So something perhaps magnesium bisglycinate, magnesium taurate, something which is a bit easier on the gut, which might have some synergistic effect alongside the the taurine and the bisglycinate, the glycine, that have a beneficial effect on your gut versus chucking in citrate, which might just be a bit too strong for your stomach acid. But that's my 2 penneth. What about you, Stephen?
Well, yeah, I don't know the Relight. I know the Relight electrolytes, but off the top of my head, I don't know what the formulation is. So I would say if you've already put in the question, that you're probably lifespanners thinking that there may be an issue there. So Jonathan's right to maybe look at what you're doing with your electrolytes. Definitely without a shadow of a doubt, excess potassium or calcium can change the heart's electrical condition. I mean, that's nailed on. So, and also with diarrhea, you could find that is also the same thing. I mean, if it's got magnesium citrate in, I know I always joke about it, but I always call it magnesium shitrate, because it can definitely do that. Maybe there's other things in it. So sorbitol can do that as well. That can cause that's actually given as a laxative in hospitals. So artificial sweeteners could be a little bit of a thing to look at as well. Upset tummy, I'm assuming that you mean diarrhea as an upset tummy, and if that's a separate issue, Jonathan's pretty much nailed that as well. But I think, what is diarrhea? Well, there's too much water in your stool. So, you've got an osmotic thing there going on. So maybe you are drinking too much, or drinking too much when you eat at the same time. Maybe that is something that you're doing. If your urine is clear, that's a sign that you are drinking way too much water. So, yeah, hopefully that's a good enough answer for you, lifespanners. Some things to think about. But I think, Jonathan, one of the things I really like about you is you talk about stuff like taurine, which is, many people think is very specialist, but I think it's one of those supplements that is almost a wonder supplement. And we get it in food. And the reason I love Richard talking about stuff is he sells supplements, but he always says if you can get it from food, then that's great. But some people just can't eat enough, or don't get it, or their supply of food is not enough, and they need a little boost. So that's great. Yeah, great. John, 20 euros. So that's great. By the way, I never know which channel gets this, so I'm just going to say thank you, whether it's for Jonathan or myself. It's thank you all round. Hi, I know carnivore is the ideal picture towards health, but keeping a minimal amount of carbs in stops all my cravings. and it makes it way more sustainable for me. What would be the best carb sources for health? He's looking for 50 grams maximum a day. That is a really good question. What would you say, Jonathan?
That's a good question. Yeah, and I say most, not every carnivore, but a lot of people online will say, just be more strict. Just be more strict for longer. The reality is, this guy's obviously invested his 20 euros. He's asking us a question, and he's tried it all by the sounds of it. So some people can't sustain it. So the key point here is, he's unable to sustain it. So what is the next best option? So there's always a good, better, and best case scenario with this sort of thing. My opinion, I'd be looking at the most nutrient density with the least plant toxins. So if you don't eat plants, it's going to be a bigger sort of bigger lever there. So I'd say, go for some dairy, maybe if you tolerate it. Something like 75-80% of the white population on the globe can tolerate it. But in general, about 80% of people can't. So that includes black, ethnic minorities, so on and so forth. So imagine you're a white guy, you probably can tolerate it just fine. I think 50 grams a day is a good cap as well. It's a number that Bart K and I seem to find most people, once they get beyond that 50 grams, that's when things start to happen, like eye floaters, inflammation, blurry vision, gastric upset, inflammation, things like that. So I'd say it's a good level. I'm cutting right now for bodybuilding show. I'm taking in about pretty much exactly 30 grams of carbs per day. And that's from 1 or 2 coffees every now and then. There's some carbs in coffee. I wear everything, some nuts, some Greek yogurt, raw milk sometimes. There's always going to be like a gram or half a gram and some eggs. Before you know it, if you have a high food intake, that 50 grams can easily fill up for quite a lot of people. But yeah, that's what I'd personally go for. If you're looking the other route, so plant sources, there's going to be a level of toxicity. So I actually give some credit to Paul Saladino for this one, because he's the first person to actually speak about a plant toxicity spectrum. I think the words I used. I'd say things like watermelon, melon, they're mostly water, some sugar, some potassium, vitamin C, but other than that, there's nothing really in them. They're quite innocuous. Now, people watching this will say, yeah, but I found this chemical in one article, in one scientific paper, which says it can be bad for rats on a Sunday. Well, great, you're not a rat on a Sunday. So I wouldn't look too far into the weeds in that regard. But yeah, mainly tropical fruits if you're into that sort of thing, without the skins, ripe if possible. Don't eat fruit raw, in my opinion. I don't think it's a great idea, just because it can have a lot of prebiotic fiber. Now, if you put in prebiotic fiber from a raw fruit or vegetable, you chuck it in, you've got the short chain fatty acids from animal fats, you're going to have a big problem, because you're giving your body 2 different substrates to use in the colon to feed colonocytes. Therefore, you're not making a step in terms of your health. You've got 2 different obstacles to tackle here. So we are human beings. We are specialized individual biologically dynamic systems, as I know you like to hear me say. So that's what I'll be looking at. But what about you, Stephen? What would you go for? Would you go more the animal route or the slight fruit route, or a bit of both?
That's brilliant. What I'm really liking, by the way, you've got a lot of fans coming on. Zabignew is a name that we don't see unless you're on, Jonathan. So it's very nice to see you again, because you're a big fan of Jonathan's channel. And when we used to do Carnivore Team GB, which is just difficult to get all of us together, which is why we stopped it. It was fun, and it was really nice that you supported us, Zabignew. So it's great that you're still in and around. So Lifespanners has crept in with another question, and that's absolutely fine. We don't mind that. If I'm eating mostly fatty meat and I choose to add in some sheep yogurt, half a cup, with about 6 grams of carbs, will that put me into the Randall cycle? I eat this once per day after the last meal. Jonathan?
That's a good question. Yeah, so 6 grams of carbs in yogurt. I would say probably not, in my opinion. I say this as if I have the best answer, but I know Stephen will have a better answer to us, because this is more his field of specialism. But I've looked at a paper somewhere where it's sort of extrapolated loosely. About 8 grams plus will cause a level of insulin secretion that is noteworthy. It's going to depend on your body weight. how big you are, basically, how much buffer you have in your blood system. Me, I could probably tolerate more than most people, so bear that in mind as well. I'd say it comes down to what your carbohydrate intake is over any period of time. So there's not really a way you can say, okay, one day I'm going to eat a bag of Skittles in the evening, but I'm going to have steak and eggs in the morning, it's protein and fat. It won't really work because you still have the excess excess substrate in your fuel system. So your body doesn't recognize I've got that and that. It just recognizes my system is full, my blood system is full, therefore got to start dumping something somewhere, causing inflammation, increasing surface volume of the body. Therefore, you just could get more glycation, more bad stuff happens in the cells, more deuterium buildup. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't personally worry at 6 grams of carbs. I'd say most of my clients are on between about 20 and 50 per day. So maybe having 20 in one go probably won't break the bank. But again, a Randall cycle is a gradient. It's a sliding scale. It's neither on nor off. It's always on to some degree. But what we want to do is try and mitigate the amount of substrate we have in our body with that protein, fat, or carbs in one given time. So, for example, I've done this experiment myself. I've had a cheat day of eating crap. I might say 8,000 calories, but then I've split that day up and I've had, say, the excess calories between 2 days. So say I was at a 4,000 calorie surplus, I'll be at a 2,000 and a 2,000. And what I found was I actually get more inflammation from that giant spike than I do from having a bit on each day. So if you're having 6 grams of carbs per day for each sheep yogurt, and that's keeping you at bay, you're happy, enjoying that, no problem at all. It's when that 6 grams of carbs turns into add a Cadbury flake, add a load of peanuts, add a load of chocolate raisins, that's when we have a problem, I think.
Yeah, you've hit the nail on the head. I would say the language, you're not trying to put yourself into the Randall cycle or pull yourself out. Your body sort of decides. It's a bit like saying, I want to get into ketosis, out of ketosis. Your body is pretty smart. I wouldn't worry too much. I mean, Jonathan hit the nail on the head about timing as well, because we're talking about the overplus of energy. And once the Randall cycle, if you want to get all technical, is in that line of inertia and it's oxidizing fat for energy. It's like trying to slow down a tanker and turning it round to get it to start to oxidize or, use carbohydrate for energy. There's an element of inertia into that. And that makes total sense, because once your mechanism's going and it's working, you've got to overcome that. And it's a sliding scale, as Jonathan said, like sort of mixer when you was the DJ and you've got, table A and table B. You're bringing in one new thing and you slide the other one out and you get a total perfect beat. Wow, I'm 60, so I'm sounding like a right old granddaddy here. But, that's what used to happen. And because the old record moves out and the new song comes in, but there's got to be enough. There's got to be a thing on beat that's good enough to drive what's happening on the dance floor. What terrible analogy. But anyway, if you look at things in a sensible way, I mean, for instance, you don't tell us how. So the thing is, we don't know how much fatty meat. We don't know how much you're taking in when you're eating your eggs. You don't know your activity. But for safety's sake, 6 grams of carbs is such a small amount in the scheme of things. It's very unlikely that it's going to cause you problems. But also, the timing. You're eating once per day after your last meal. Why would you need to eat everything at the same time? If you're worried about the Randall cycle, certainly space it out a little bit, I think. But it's a great question. And I can tell the difference in the audience when Jonathan's on, because it definitely gets into sort of a more technical region, because that's Jonathan's channel. If you haven't seen it, go and subscribe. And that's really great. So, right, let's have a look. There was another super chat, which was really nice. And this is, Juliet.
One of the most generous people I've ever met in my life, Juliet.
Yeah, yes. Juliet's autistic experience. I use Relight every day, and it helps me keep my energy up during my fasting window. Yeah, that's great. Good use of electrolytes as a busy mum. But everyone is different. But that and that's it in a nutshell. That's why we don't do a one size fits all sort of chat, and that's why we have different opinions. And that's why we talk about different opinions, because how else do you learn? It's not an echo chamber. That's the whole point of these live question and answers. So Juliet, thank you for the $4.99. That's really good. And obviously Jonathan knows you, so you're obviously a big supporter, which is really great. Okay, so let's go into MJ here. Just a comment, really. Mother is 76 years old, 100 days carnivore. See, you definitely can change your life at any age. Terrible leg cramps at night have gone. Tingling in feet has gone, and she's lost 27 pounds. Hoping her OCD will improve. Well, anecdotally, yeah, we definitely see that. Which I obviously can't guarantee for you that that's going to happen to your mother, but this is the best way of eating. It's giving your body the best environment, your brain the best energy supply it can. So removing anxiety and stuff like that really helps. This is I think it's your wheelhouse as well, isn't it, Jonathan? This sort of stuff. And while you're answering, we're going to let Richard in from the backstage.
Yeah, I mean, I'm actually really glad to hear that, MJ. So I'm glad you're. I think you said your mother's in a better shape now. So 100 days, that's good. I mean, a lot of people have keto symptoms, so like tingling feet, numb legs at night, leg cramps, that sort of stuff. So that's gone. So that means it's going to sleep better, which is really good. In my opinion, a lot of people that are anxious, have depression, suffer with OCD, anything along the sort of cognitive spectrum in that kind of regard, I'd say, yeah, they do tend to benefit on a carnivore diet. But the benefit in it is the simplicity in it. I mean, nowadays I just cook some burgers, chuck them in the fridge, eat them the next day, put some cheese on, maybe make some eggs or something, have a protein ice cream thing that I make, and that's really enjoyable. I'd say for a lot of people, the way I do things in the kitchen is very OCD, but it's part of who I am now, really. It's not something I see as a problem, but part of it is also accepting how she is now and just realizing how much she's benefited. I mean, she lost like 9 to 20, like about, I don't know, 10 pounds a month, which is really good rate of progress. We don't often see bodybuilding competitors make that kind of rate of progress in a contest prep, so it's really good going. So that's what I have to say, really, just addressing how well the person's doing. So yeah.
And Richard, hello.
Hello. Good day.
Good day to you, sir. How have you been?
All good. You guys?
Yeah, we've missed you. We've obviously
missed you. For a bit. We had a question about electrolytes, and I had to quickly go on your channel and research all that you said about it.
Good stuff.
Yeah. Right. We'll get straight on with the questions, though, if that's okay. Can you still hear me all right?
All good.
Yeah, great stuff. Right. Okay. So let's, I'm just changing the screen over now. You're here just to help me a little bit. Right. Okay. Andrea is worrying that she's asked a question on my perspective of what Jonathan shared. No, that's fine. Of course, this is what I just said. You can definitely ask questions because Jonathan and I have that slight difference of opinion about priming, but that's it. I mean, that's the whole point. Pros and cons of both things. It's fine to talk about that. So Rick, the guy that's been a carnivore for 40 years, it's always good to see you, Rick. Can they, I suppose that's us three, explain why seed oils give you diarrhea, butter does not? I suppose we're going to get into the realms of seed oils have that liquid polyunsaturated fat and chemical processing and saturated fats. Short chain and medium chain fatty acids, much easier to digest. Well, what do you reckon, guys? Let's go to Richard as he's just come in.
Way too kind, as always, gents. Yeah, look, it's, vegetable oils are high in a toxic omega-6 linoleic acid, known to cause oxidative stress, increase certain pathways, prostaglandins, leukotrienes, thromboxanes, and so on and so forth. It affects the barrier function. It'll cause intestinal permeability, and it's just basically just bad stuff, isn't it? And as you say, Steve, it's a longer chain fatty acid, which causes issues within the gut. I know when I eat out, if the restaurant has cooked in seed oils. I don't get the same effect with butter. I do get the same effect with rendered fat. If I pour the rendered fat over my food after cooking minced beef, for example, that can cause issues for me. But linoleic acid, I'm straight on the toilet and in severe pains as well. Not that anybody wants to visualize that, but it's toxic stuff. I mean, it's machine lubricant. It's machine lubricant, isn't it? You know, have you noticed when you go to McDonald's, you know, they call the toilet problems after the muck beeps fill in the camp. Toxic stuff. It's not made for human consumption.
Jonathan, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I think Rick's asked me this a couple of times before. It's his how to put it. It's his routine questioning of the same question. So it comes down to catalyzing reactions and intestinal permeability, largely speaking. So if you're looking at a long chain fat versus a short chain fat, it's going to have a drastic difference in someone's body metabolism, how fast it comes out. All it is effectively different lengths or chains of molecules, which take a different gradient or level of enzymatic reactions to make it occur, so it breaks down properly, so it doesn't cause you irritation in the gut. Now, fats largely are quite innocuous until they get through the mitochondria. I know Richard actually has a bit more information about this if he's alive and well, but because it's actually you who taught me something about the biochemistry around it, but I can't quite remember what it was.
In regards to the long chain fatty acids and the
short
that
was it. Yeah.
So it's the longer chain go through a much longer laborious process in regards to binding to chylomicrons to be transported through the lymphatic system. So that's one aspect. The shorter chain fatty acid MCTs, for example, are sent straight to the liver where they're instantly converted into ketones, but the longer chain fatty acids take this longer path. I'm trying to think what else it could have been that we would have mentioned. Something else just popped into my mind, but went straight back out again. The bile reabsorption is another one. You know, it's and this is the bile. Yeah. So the bile production when we come into being carnivore initially it's not used to being used. So we start upregulating when we consume the fats, and this can happen when we gravitate into ketogenic and carnivore lifestyles, regardless of fat source. But it's far more problematic long term for people who consume the linoleic acid. So essentially, what happens is that the body will upregulate the bile to emulsify the fats and proteins as it passes into the duodenum to increase the surface area so the pancreatic enzymes can go to work as it passes through the digestive system. But then bile is meant to be reabsorbed in the small intestine, but it's almost lost its intelligence to do this. So it will travel to the lower gut where it will cause severe gastro distress. But again, you know, MCT can cause this also in the oil form if we consume it in high quantities. But many of us are not used to consuming oils or fats, I should say. And fats are essential, but the types of fats from vegetable oils, you know, make no bones about it. They're not fit for human consumption. They're treated with toxic chemicals like hexane and peroxide. And they were invented during the war as machine lubricant. When the war came to an end, there was an industry that didn't have means to market, so they created one and they put it into the food, you know. And we're told these things are good for us because it lowers our cholesterol, which isn't a good thing, by the way. It artificially lowers our cholesterol, which is why we see an increase in cholesterol when we come off these seed oils. It's not because keto and carnivore increases our cholesterol. It's because the body has the ability now to return back to its natural physiological level. But yeah, I mean, probably an entire talk. We could spend a few hours on this, I guess, guys, couldn't we? But interesting subject.
Absolutely. So just while we're talking for a few hours, we never get to every single question, but we try to sort of give you a full answer. If you would like to join our school community, that's one of the things that you can do, where I'm just going to show you what it looks like. you can join our school community, and there's a lot of extra time. Even tonight, in the next half hour, we're going to answer as many questions as we can. But after that, Richard and myself will be in the school community, but looks like this. And it's, where you can ask lots and lots of questions, which we answer on a daily basis. Also, there's a classroom there. If you become a member and you're active, you can go through all the 9 levels. You get free ebooks, videos. Here we are talking about thyroid level 3. That's when you've done a lot of activity within the group. And then dairy, free ebooks, fruit and veg, all the truth about that, protein, problem solving. And then you get to level 8. You get my book for nothing because you've earned the right. And there's our fat club there as well. And as you can see in the calendar, you see we do a live question and answer on a Monday for an hour. We also do sometimes a Thursday night, which is about an hour. And then we have special guests like we got today. We do at 7 o'clock. That's not in school, but that's free to everybody on YouTube. Like we got Jonathan today down here and Ask Us Anything. And you can see there at 8 p.m. we're going to answer some more questions. If you want to join school, then you can do that, and I'll put a link in the chat. And we're still one of those least expensive communities. I think about 50% cheaper or less expensive than everybody else. So, right, let's get into the next.
I just want to say as well, like, it's actually good value, this, guys. It's not some tin pot operation. These two gentlemen put a lot of effort into this. It's not like a slap a group together. Here's your Zoom meeting. You might get your question answered. There's a lot of information on there, and it's all easily accessible. It's not hard. It's not difficult, but you're going to find the same level of detail in the answers that you're finding here tonight. So I'd recommend it personally.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. Yeah, we do put a lot of effort in. And also, I do lots of transcripts and there's playbacks. And I think the guys that are in the room that are a member of the school are quite surprised with the length of some of the answers they get from myself and from Richard. So, and I do written stuff and copying. A question might come up and I'll write an article on my Substack based on the question. And then we'll share the Substack and people absolutely love it. Anyway, Life Spanners, $4.99 super chat. I'm 5'2", 120 pounds, 52-year-old woman on low dose HRT. I'm holding extra fat around my midsection, working out with weights 4 times a week. Carney, how to move mid-fat? How would you get rid of midsection fat?
Go on, Jonathan, after you, man. You're the guest.
Good, man. I'll try my best. Yeah, I mean, there could be a hormonal element to it in the fact that she's mentioned she's on low dose HRT. So obviously something's happening there where it could be stress related. It could be a time of month. Maybe that stops her from being as diligent with her diet. I typically find most women I've worked with will have a higher appetite around their time of month. So that could be it. But then if they're on HRT, is that dose the right HRT dose? Have you been through the mill in terms of scaling it up, scaling it down? I know guys that will use TRT, so the male testosterone replacement therapy. Perhaps they use 100 milligrams per week. Then I know other guys that use 200 milligrams per week. But in their blood levels, it won't show as double. And a person with double the testosterone level might not actually feel better. It could be the exact opposite as well. So what your body's doing with those hormones is probably more important than the amount that you're having injected each week or whatever it is during a set period of time. So personally, I would just keep working at it and make sure you're not overtraining as well. If you're training 4 times per week, but you're tracking what you're doing in the gym, you're trying to do progressive overload, but you're not tracking your nutrition intake. So there's a massive variance each week and each day in what you're eating. That could be a big problem. Perhaps 4 times is too much, but also on the same token, it could also be too little. If you're going to the gym 4 times per week and doing 5 fluff sets, just chatting to your mates, sat on the treadmill or the bike for 10 minutes after, doing a bit of stretching, maybe it's not as much as what you think it is. So obviously, heavy weights is obviously a relative term. Heavy doesn't mean intense. So I would chase intensity in your training rather than the fact that the weight you're using is heavy above all. But yeah, I mean, that's what I'd look at. But I'd use the diet as the biggest lever. So how can you micromanage your diet the best way possible to lose the most amount of fat? And if you're tracking your macros, roughly what you're eating each day, or tracking your food intake, You know, you eat 500 grams of mince per day or ground beef with 5 eggs, whatever it is. Okay, maybe that's too much fat. Maybe you get a 5% leaner mince, something like that. So just make the correct swaps. And a lot of people out there go blaming hormones. The reality is we've got Dr. Sean Baker with low testosterone, who's getting world records in his age group category in rowing. So, you know, it's not the be all and end all, and it's it could certainly be an element, but it's not going to defeat you. So don't feel defeated.
Yeah, and I think with the HRT as well, sometimes, and this is not a nag, it's always good to tell us what sort of HRT it is. It could be estrogen only, it could be estrogen progestin, which makes a difference. Estrogen only is sort of a little bit more notorious for the pear shape. I hate that expression, but and also whether it's oral, you know, which helps if it's a patch or a gel. All of these things make a difference. So what I would say is, you know, I think you're possibly, you know, a customer of Jonathan's channel. You know, give Jonathan a bit more information and he'll be able to dive into that a bit more. I think, you know, training helps, but also getting all the details in the first place. But that's great. Lifespanners, thank you so much for the question. Let's go back to the comments. We've got another super chat, which is really amazing. I don't know how to get that one on the screen. Let me try and get that on the screen so people can see it. This is from John. No, it's not the one. He's done another one since. There it is. There we go. Right, here we go. John wants to say, good idea on the fruit. Thank you. Currently eating fatty beef and eggs in the day, but in the evening I started craving some carb after a few weeks, especially after a workout, which makes total sense. White rice or banana helped and made me sleep better. I think that's a Richard type of advice. That's the sort of thing you would say, isn't it? Sometimes, Richard.
I'm trying to
white rice. White rice.
Certainly, white rice is, in my opinion, one of the best source of carb. Now, make no bones, we don't need any exogenous carbohydrate, but I'm certainly not anti-carb. I think if you are going to consume carbohydrate, then white rice is one of the better sources because it's lectin free. Fructose, again, natural, but that can be problematic also, especially if you suffer with things like IBS, which is fructose malabsorption, by the way. But yeah, it's going to help because you're suffering with hypoglycemia, which will rectify when you gravitate deeper towards ketogenic and carnivore lifestyles. As you adapt and we upregulate the pathways and the enzymes involved with keto production and transportation utilization, we transition more towards utilizing those ketones for fuel over the carbohydrate, but still we can upregulate the body's ability to create any glucose required via gluconeogenesis. So these are all common things that we suffer with in the early stages, the cravings, the sugar crashes. But, you know, I can't remember the last time that I became hypoglycemic. According to the glucose monitor, the CGM, I was hypoglycemic recently when I ran a race, a 10K race, which we presented live on YouTube also. So it showed the increase of my blood sugar go up to, I think it was almost 18, which is incredible and very, very high. But it just goes to show that my body was able to create that. But then followed by this was a big drop after I stopped. But it took me into what we would deem to be dangerously low levels of blood sugar. But I didn't suffer with any problems. There was no issues because my body was able to utilize ketones and it quickly returned back to baseline. So yeah, the body's an interesting machine, an incredible machine.
It is. Yeah. Someone here is saying, is the guest Jonathan Carnivore Muscle? Yes. And it's quite funny because if you've not seen Jonathan's channel recently, you don't see Jonathan on the screen that much. And there's a couple of people that private messaged me and said, I've never seen him before. But there you go. That's what he looks like.
I'm new to this space, guys. I'm new to this space.
A mean, lean fighting machine, I tell you. The Feral Grandma super sticker of $20. That's very kind of you. Thank you very much. MJ's done a super sticker of $4.99. Every little helps, guys. And we're going to go back to the questions in date order now, or the time they've been posted, I should say. And let's have a look. So, here we go. Kidney stones. What do you think about carnivores getting kidney stones when transitioning, and any recommendations to avoid it? What about you, Jonathan? What do you recommend to people?
Yeah, I've had kidney stones before. They're not much fun at all. What can happen is, I mean, when you have a standard Western diet, you're taking almonds, spinach, kale, all these things that are high in oxalates, which basically bind up in your kidney filtration system, along with other tissues in your body, and basically they become hard to excrete because they cause like a blockade, basically. And that can be in people's joints, people's skin, around people's eyes, I don't know, sweaty places, like anywhere in the body really you can get it. And the thing about the kidneys is you can't really see that you're excreting them. So it's not really a visible sign. So you don't really get much of a warning sign until they dislodge. Then you're in pain, hunched over like 90 degrees, with your chest on the table. So that's been my experience of that. And when you decrease the amount of oxalate within the diet, you'll start to actually excrete them a bit faster because you're not causing that blockade. Your body's thinking, well, I'm actually healing a bit deeper right now because I'm in a high state of autophagy, like low carbohydrate sort of state. Let's dump this excess crap we don't need. But what can eventually happen is it can basically puncture holes in your kidney filtration system so that you think you're going to be, I don't know, living around with like, I don't know, an 80 EGFR plus. Before you know it, it'll go down to like 40 or 20, or I've even seen as low as 10, which is a point where you sort of getting a kidney transplant. What I recommend to people when doing it is just transition slowly. I know Richard and probably Stephen would probably think the same sort of thing. So don't go from day one, I don't know, Stone Western diet, to day 2, a carnivorous diet with no fruit or vegetables, no seasonings, nothing. And some people actually find they just keep excreting kidney stones. It's not an ongoing thing, but it's a cyclical thing. But you don't really know when the cycle is going to hit. It could just be by happenstance. There's no real hard science on when that's going to happen. But you can hear a lot of anecdotes online by people like Sally Norton. So that's what I'd probably look at in that regard. But in terms of like getting rid of them, if you want to fasten that process, speed it up, hasten it, you're looking at things like potassium citrate, like a teaspoon of citric acid. What's that one? Electrolytes. Yeah, the Keto Per Electrolytes. They've got a new flavor actually, which I tried. Mango. It's really good. I didn't think you could level up from the cherry berry, but the mango is really good. So I recommend them a lot. But yeah, that's what I'd look at. So scaling the diet into a more carnivorous diet, scaling up the potassium citrate to help excrete them, and also look at different kind of methods as well. I mean, getting some sunlight in your abdomen, that will probably help on your backside as well. You'd be surprised how much your body heals itself when you just let it. So that means going outside, doing all the things you would have done 1,000 years ago, but because now you live inside, because you're scared of, I don't know, the birds. It seems to be a better situation. So you're trying to manage living here. As many biohacks as I have here sat right now, what I'm doing right now, a lot of the biohack, the best benefit is outside. So
yeah,
excellent stuff.
Completely agree.
Yeah, brilliant.
Potassium citrate, that's the key if you want to add anything in, because it has a high affinity, the highest affinity to the oxalates. This is why people with people who suffer with kidney stones and oxalate detox also tend to suffer with hypokalemia, because it's binding to the potassium with this within the body. That's why I've added the potassium citrate to this. So yeah, fantastic means to excrete those nasty oxalates.
All right.
Oh, I got a hack, Stephen. Sorry, I'm interrupting. Sorry, but I got a hack. So I got 2 scoops of Keto Per Electrolytes mango, and I added 5 grams of beef gelatin, put some warm water in, and made like a jelly.
Yeah.
And it's actually nice. Like, I actually ate that and thought, I shouldn't be allowed this, but I am. I loved it. It's excellent.
Yeah, the mango, which are currently available on Amazon, by the way. And again, the same offer that I've run recently. Anyone who is willing to leave an honest review in exchange for purchasing the electrolytes from Amazon, I will kindly send a free tub as a thank you. So just leave an honest review. Email info@theketopro.com. I'll pop that below, and we will get a free tub over to you in exchange for that honest review.
Excellent. Okay. Right. John, I don't want to miss your super chats, as you mentioned earlier. You're right about YouTube and StreamYard, that they are not the greatest combination when it comes to finding things. But anyway, we found your other €5 contribution. Thank you very much. Thank you for your help today. Tomorrow marks week 11 on Carnivore for me. Only started to have those cravings last week. We'll see how it goes. Yeah, I mean, you're still in your early stages of adaptation, so I think you're right to see how it goes. Basically, keep in this community, keep asking questions, and we'll see you through it. That's the whole point of doing this stuff, to sort of handhold people that are new to it and give you as much information as we possibly can to make it an easy transition. There are so many people in the chat telling stories of great results, by the way, but we don't have time to do that because we're trying to get through all the questions. But it's great to hear all the wonderful, positive things. So there we go. Right, Zinc 316. Can excess protein start again? Can excess protein cause glycation? Glycation, of course, being the fact that glucose binds to protein, unless you happen to be Nutrition with Victoria, who thinks that glycation is caused by fat. Anyway, but that's for another day. So can excess protein cause glycation, guys?
Richard,
Jonathan.
you first or me?
Oh, Richard.
Go on,
Richard.
Jonathan, man. You're the guest. You kick it off, man.
Yeah.
All right, just this time. Okay. Long story short, yes, I think so. However, to get to that point, you're really going to struggle. So idea is protein in excess can cause gluconeogenesis, so it can turn into glucose or muscle glycogen downstream. That's the idea. Glycation is, well, it's basically a glucose thing with the protein thing, the amino acid thing, bind together, causes a bit of inflammation, settles on the surface of cells and says, that was not a good idea. Let's inflame the crap out of this guy. That's my limited knowledge of glycation, but yeah, I mean, can it cause an excess? Yes, but it's so hard to eat enough protein to cause that. And also, you've got the thermic effect of food. So things like protein, you're looking at 20 to 30% of that energy within, say the unit of calorie. Because say we have in a bomb calorimeter, we have a gram of protein, and it'll measure 4 calories apparently. Well, when we actually burn it, so the process of actually burning it, creating, the end amino acid substrates, you lose about 30% of the energy. So it's actually about 3.2. Then we've got to count for, well, there's a person absorbing all of that, because even then that can affect it. I mean, a massive amount, but I can see numbers like 10, 15% in different studies. So we don't all deal with protein the same. So I think there is a large variation in terms of how much we can take in. With me, with my health conditions, with the way I train, with my genetics, my protein is much higher than most people's. But they almost stack. So all these additional reasons why I need more protein than people will stack to a very high number. But it's not what I recommend to people. But if you're eating to appetite, to satiety at least, I'd say you're probably looking at probably not overeating it. There's been studies by, I don't remember the guy's names, but he's to do with Dr. Ted Naiman. There's 2 guys. I think one's German or Swiss. They basically looked at different animal models and insect studies and things and found, okay, if we feed this animal 40% of its total calories per day in the form of protein, it's actually less likely to overeat. So therefore, you're not going to be able to cause glycation because you can't eat that much protein because of the satiety factor. So protein in Greek mythology, etiology means the first. So it means the most important thing. So it means when we go for food, people say we're lipivores, but it's like, well, yeah, but if you don't eat protein, but you only eat fat, you're going to be missing out on all the B vitamins, all the amino acids. On the same token, we actually store body fat, which we can get rid of to a certain point, but eventually we're going to be emaciated. So it's not a case of, ratios or leveraging one over the other. It's a case of, this is how much protein I need, this is how much fat I need. Then you scale it up or down based on what your body fat's doing at the time in terms of the fat. But then in some people, they might need to lower the protein before things get going. It's just a unique thing, which is bizarre, but doesn't make much sense. But long story short, I think it can, yes, but the likelihood of it happening is next to 0 or nil. And then we've looked at, sorry, Steve, Stephen's made a brilliant point a long time ago about the glucose studies and gluconeogenesis and does it cause diabetes and all that sort of thing. And he sort of said, well, yeah, we looked at these studies and we weren't getting this massive insulin spike from eating protein, which has been my experience as well. I mean, I eat about 90 grams of protein per meal, every meal, 4 meals per day. I don't seem to be having issues in terms of blood sugar crashes. I always feel about the same. So,
yeah, I agree 100%. It's, you know, again, I think it's possible, but many of us are coming from a state of damage. And we need that protein. I mean, protein is the building block, isn't it? And as you say, you know, we can't create and build everything from fat. Protein is the key. You know, everything that nature provides us comes with protein and fat. And it's interesting that you mentioned about that with glycation, Steve, because glycation is definitely caused by the carbon double bond oxygen on sugar. So I don't understand how that can come from fat at all. So it's yeah, the double bond. The carbon double bond oxygen basically creates an amidori product, which leads to glycation, and it will activate toxic pathways like the NOx pathway, as well as nuclear factor kappa B, and lead to oxidative stress and a whole host of problems, which comes from sugar, by the way, not from protein. And SNAP, I've never noticed a big blood glucose bump when consuming lots and lots of protein. I probably consume pre-cooked weight over 1 kilogram of animal proteins a day. It's a lot of protein for my size, and I don't seem to have any blood sugar issues.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks. And thanks for the heads up, Jonathan, or the shout out, as they call it. Right, let's have a look. Jonathan, what kind of aminos you consume? Leucine?
I have to consume all of them or I won't be able to make any muscle. So the answer I'm going to give is all of them. But if you're asking how much leucine I consume per day, I'd say for the past 5-6 years it's been around about 25 to 30 grams. That's through dietary sources, whey protein. You know, dairy's going to be high in leucine, so that's where I'm largely getting it from. But yeah, that's a long story short.
Absolutely brilliant. And obviously that's just for Jonathan. So there you go. Andy is putting in excess fat can give that upset feeling in the stomach. Absolutely. Rendered fat, that's the liquid fat when you have ground beef, for instance. You know, the fat you see in the pan, rendered fat. There's nothing posh about that. All that means is you are separating the fat from everything else, and it becomes pure fat. And that can be a problem when it's in the liquid form for some people. So, Andy, that's great. Thank you for putting that in. Marissa, like Marissa Torme, I suppose. Can you explain what is happening when your body takes on weight with carnivore? Will your body balance out naturally, or will you have to reduce your intake to lose weight? Jonathan first, and then we go to Richard.
I'll try and be snappy on this one. Long story short, things will change as your body is dynamic all the time. Say Richard right now, say he's eating about 1 kilo of meat per day. He might be more busy about realizing it in the summer. Maybe he sweats more, maybe shakes a bit more. Maybe he's going to eat, I don't know, 10% more. But he might actually be leaner, eating more down the line at that point. So it's not a case of trying to find out exactly what you need at a certain body weight, but finding the way there. That's part of the fun. For me as a bodybuilder, that's what I find fun. So what I'd probably say is just track what you're eating, weigh what you're eating, and say I've eaten, you know, arbitrary numbers, 500 grams of mince, and I don't know, 5 eggs. There you go. Then what you can do is just leverage the protein or lower the fat. Sometimes you don't need to do both. So usually people won't have a objective end goal. So it might be that they're not saying, I want to lose 20 pounds in 3 months or 27 pounds in 100 days like the person earlier. Maybe they want to lose 50 pounds. I don't know. Well, okay, how are you going to reach that? And if you sort of looked at your body and said, well, okay, if I'm 300 pounds, I want to be 250 pounds. Well, how much would that be in terms of the food you're eating? So if you know about 1 kilo would land you, well, it wouldn't, but if 1 kilo of meat each day landed you at 300 pounds, probably, unless you're much more active, much more muscular, which is unlikely in a 3-month period, you're going to be eating about 1/6 less. So you're going to be eating, say, I don't know, maths, just under 800 grams per day or something. Was it more than that? 820, 830 grams per day of food. So you have to expect to drop food in order to lose fat or lose weight. But then again, it might change again. So you might then, I don't know, change your goals up. Then you want to do a rapid fat loss phase. You have to reduce your intake more to get there. But what I try to teach people isn't like, you don't need to follow a diet to get there to be precise and perfect, and that's the end of it for the rest of your life. No, my diet changes every day, but I fit within a certain macro guideline framework. So that's probably what you have to look at doing, I think. So finding the way is the most important thing. That's the ice cream truck, in case you can't hear it.
Is it coming for you, John?
It's not coming for me.
Have you ordered it especially?
Yeah,
I completely agree. I think that what I've noticed with clients is that it depends on where they are on the journey. Many come into this from being ill and damaged, so their bodies require a lot more. They need to be in that fed and repaired state before they start to lose weight. A lot of clients I work with gain weight when they start carnivore because they're so damaged. But so it depends on where you are, I think. But 100%, Jonathan, it's the levers ultimately the protein and fat, isn't it? I mean, the best lever that I've been able to pull when it comes to me losing weight is the fat lever. But then excessive protein, I guess, in theory, could elicit a further insulin response because it is insulin that drives and breaks the bonds on the glycerol backbone and sends the fatty acids into the fat cell. Cortisol damage the HPA axis that can also lead to weight gain. So I think there's a number of things. I think the best thing that Marissa could do is probably book one of us for a consultation because it would take that long, I think, to get all of the information required to break that down. But I think it does very much depend on where you are on your journey and many other factors that need some consideration.
Brilliant, you two guys. I mean, we've got a question here from Amanda. I'll read her most recent one. Amanda's Violin and Adventures. What is the difference between fat adapted and being in ketosis? I put my question in 4 times, still no answer. Well, we have to answer everyone in order. I'm sorry. If you've not been on the channel before, we give full answers rather than just sort of 1 sentence, 2 sentences. So, and we do the people that have put questions early. I'm sorry about that. And super chats.
That's not fair, Richard.
Sorry?
It's not fair.
So, what's the difference between fat adapted and being in ketosis?
Do you want me to jump on this one?
Yeah,
really
go on then, mate.
Yep. So look, it's fat adaptation happens incredibly quickly. It's when the body has the ability or upregulates the ability to utilize fat for fuel and therefore convert them into ketones. This happens quickly. You can do this in as little as a few days or even within a day if your glycogen stores are low. So it's a case of depleting glycogen stores, forcing the body into utilizing fat for fuel. We send fat through beta oxidation and then into HMG-CoA and eventually ketone production. But this in the early stages is inefficient. So this is what I would class as fat adapted. But to be keto adapted, it are 2 different things. Keto adaptation, I think, can take 6 to 12 months. And this involves the upregulation of the monocarboxylate transporters and the associated enzymes BDH, ACAT, and SCOT, which utilize these within cells. So when we start a ketogenic journey and we test ketones, we'll test the breath monitors, we'll test the urine strips, but these detect acetone, which is a wasted ketone product. It means that you're burning fat for fuel, but you're doing it inefficiently. So it's a fantastic gauge in the early stages. Fantastic tool to measure and just to allow you to get used to what allows you to be ketogenic and what allows you not to be ketogenic. So fantastic tools, but these are wasted ketones. As we adapt deeper down the journey, we stop wasting this form of ketone in the form of acetone, and we convert more into beta hydroxybutyrate, and then we test the blood, and then we detect beta hydroxybutyrate in the blood. But even over time, these levels can drop as we upregulate the monocarboxylate transporters and the associated enzymes further. So I, for example, probably measure 0.2, which to many is not in a ketogenic state, but it's not because I'm not producing ketones. It's because I'm keto adapted and I'm utilizing them at a far higher rate. So fat adaptation happens quickly. This is where we can create ketones and burn fat for fuel. But keto adaptation or being keto adapted happens much further down the line. And it can take, as I say, 6 to 12 months for most being incredibly strict in order to achieve that.
Brilliant. Right. Okay. That's as far as we can get with questions. If you want more answers, you can come and join us at school. I put the link in the chat. Jonathan, thank you for coming on tonight.
Yeah, my pleasure. I quite enjoyed it, actually. It was having good fun. It was nice to catch up with you guys again. And I do admire the effort you guys put into this, because you've been doing this for a long time now. It's not you've been in here, you started up a few weeks back. You've been doing this every single week for, I don't know, years, probably 2-3 years. So yeah, it's good effort on your part, and I think it is the best Carnivore live stream that I've seen anyway.
Appreciate
in terms
it.
of information.
Way too
my friend Rick in the chat, he's my favorite for education.
Thank you. That's really kind of you. So YouTubers, thank you for tuning in. If you're not going to join us over at the school, that's not a problem. It's been nice to have you along. Sorry you didn't get to all your questions. I have screenshotted all the questions we didn't get to, which I do eventually try to answer if you come and join us at school. So other than that, if you want to go and celebrate Liverpool winning the Premier League Championship, great stuff, because that's good. But if you would rather see Richard and I carrying on for about 30 minutes later, join us over at school. Thanks, everybody. And thanks, Jonathan.
Cheers all.